What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we'll be looking at the results and metagame of two online events played on played.limitlesstcg.com. We've got the Late Night 69 and the Late Night 70. Late Night 69 with over 250 people and Late Night 70 with almost 400 participants. These online events, at least the larger ones, are typically played on ptcgo, and I feel like I should note that now that the global beta for PTCG Live is out. Check out my sponsors, everything else like that in the description down below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Now let's take a look at what's doing well in these early Silver Tempest events. So the metagame for the Late Night 69 with 254 people and $400 cash of prizes plus 200 code cards in the prize pool. We've got 20% of the field playing Lugia Archeops decks, and then another 12% playing Mew VMAX, another 12% playing Lost Zone box, and just under that playing Giratina box. We also have Regigigas and Palkia and Teleon and Kyurem Palkia. I'd say we have Lugia Archeops and kind of like the S tier popularity, and then these three decks. Actually, we'll say these four decks in the next tier down. Mew Genesect, Lost Zone Box, Giratina, and Regis. And then in the next tier popularity down, we have Vikavolt, Hisuian Zorak, Kyurem Palkia, and Palkia and Teleon. And then everything else I'd say is kind of below there. Just that's how I kind of break it down in my head and compartmentalize it. So we can also look at win rates for the most popular decks. I'd say anything that has like 20 or more is pretty worthwhile looking at the win rates. Lugia Archeops being over 50% and being 20% of the tournament is very good, because typically when you have so much of the tournament playing a deck, the skill levels vary tremendously, and the win rates typically aren't very good, but I think this deck is so strong that it'll carry a lot of people, so it has a pretty good win rate. Lost Zone Box also has a pretty good win rate. Palkia and Teleon, pretty good win rate, but only 12 people, so it's not as reliable of data. And then we also have Vikavolt Regieleki with a 62.71% win rate, but again, only 6 people played it, so the that data is a lot less valid. So now let's look at the actual standings, and we'll look at the top 8 decks here. Let's start with Doomloud in 8th place with Palkia and Teleon. We've got, actually, we'll open up the image for this, take a nice little look at this. So we do have one new card in the deck, which is the Serena card here. A little extra draw power, and that's going to be in place of the boss's orders. They're also opting to play a Temple of Sinnoh, which is going to be really strong against Lugia. It can also be pretty good against Regigigas decks, and that's a bad matchup for Palkia, so Temple of Sinnoh seeming like a pretty good tech to have around. Also, Big Charm making your Palkia just a little bit tankier. Quick Shooting and Teleon to make your damage output a little higher, essentially. Echoing Horn as well for the same purpose. To capture energy, which I like for some extra consistency. We can also look at their matchups here. So if you guys don't use play.limitlesstcg.com, start using it. It's very, very helpful. So I like to look at what they lost to, the top 8 decks. So the top 8, Palkia lost to Vikavolt Regieleki twice, which makes sense. That's a really bad matchup. And they lost to Giratina V-Star. And then in the finals, or in top 8, they lost to a Lost Box deck. And these Lost Box decks that we'll be looking at today, a lot of them are much more all over the place, kind of. They're using Mirage Gate decks. They're using a lot of different attackers, more so than the Sableye Charizard variants that we had seen. Next, we'll be looking at a control deck that made top 8 7th, piloted by Feher Victor. This is very, very interesting. I'm super intrigued by this one. So of course we've got 4 of the Cry of Destruction Eviltal in here. Discard up to 3 special energies from your opponent's Pokemon. So if you do this 4 times, you're getting rid of 12 energies off of out of the Lugia deck, as long as they have at least 3 energies every time you use this. And then you also have Flannery for discarding special energy, And you also have Crushing Hammer for discarding energy. So you can discard essentially all of the Lugia deck's energies, every one of their energies you can get rid of. Then you also have Rabombi with Tricky Steps. It does 30, and then you move an energy from their active to one of their benched Pokemon. So you can put it somewhere that's useless if it's like one of their last energies. That's really strong as well. You have Ice Q, which can wall out Raihan. I'm sorry, Raihan. I was looking for Raihan in the deck to see how you accelerate energy to this, but it looks like they don't have Raihan for accelerating energy. You just have to attach one at a time, which I'm sure is fine because you're also controlling their board. But Ice Q with Block Face can wall out Regigigas decks and also Blissey Miltank and things like that because it says it can't be attacked or damaged by basic Pokemon's attacks next turn. So they also have Miltank, of course. Miltank's Miracle Body prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon V. This can wall out some decks efficiently as well. And then Radiant Jirachi is the other card I want to mention here. If it's in the active and is knocked out by damage from an attack, you get to search your deck for up to 3 cards. And you can always try Astral Misfortune as well, but typically it's going to be for that ability. So I really like this deck. This is super interesting. I think Control has, whenever there's a couple of decks that are taking up so much of the metagame, like we see in the meta spread for this late night event, uh, Control decks that just focus on beating a few decks can always perform well. So I really like Control right now. And then let's see what they lost to. So they got 7th place. They went on a little win streak here at the beginning, beating Lugia, Mew, and Lost Box. They lost to Regigigas and Hisuian Zoroark. What did the Hisuian Zoroark have going on that allowed them to beat them? They must have gotten donked or something because Hisuian Zoroark should just lose to Miltank. Yeah, Miltank should just outright beat Hisuian Zoroark, so that's an interesting loss. And then they beat Mew, they beat Lugia, ID'd into Phase 2 against Mew. They beat Lugia, Mew, Regigigas, Lugia, then ID probably to Vikavolt, and then lost to Lost Box. So top 7 performance by this Control deck, very nice. Then we've got 2 Vikavolt Regielekis in the top 8, okay, at 6th and 5th place. We've got this first one here. Let's look at it. So they are opting to play both the Drapion V-Star and Forest Seal Stones. So you can either search for a card or you can use this Hazard Starred power to make your opponent's active Pokemon paralyzed and poisoned. And the poison puts 3 damage counters between turns. Paralyzed poison item lock is pretty nasty, especially when the Regielekis are making your item lock do more damage. Whatever got stuck up there between the Regieleki damage buff and the Hazard Star poison, it's probably just getting knocked out on the following turn. But I don't think this is anything that we haven't seen before. They are playing 1 Temple of Sinnoh to help a little bit more with maybe Lugia decks, maybe Regigigas, things like that. And yeah, let's look at the other Vikavolt Regieleki deck. And guys, if you want to see more Vikavolt Regieleki, I have a whole video about it on this channel. And I will be trying to cover any deck in its own spotlight video that you guys want to see. So let me know if there's any if there's any decks out there that you think need content, and I can make it. So here we've got another one without Drapion V-Star. They're also playing 2 Raikou V, a little bit more of an aggressive attacker that's available to them, which I really like because sometimes I feel like I want to just do big damage, and it's a little harder to do without the Raikou V. Of course, the Raikou V has Lightning Rondo. It does 20 plus 20 more damage for each benched Pokemon, and then with your Transistor ability from Regieleki VMAX, buffing it up, it'll do a good bit of damage a lot of the time. So nothing else real important. Oh, actually, there is something else. So they're playing 3 Choice Belt in this deck. So they're going heavier into Choice Belt as opposed to heavier into Cape of Toughness. So that's also something very interesting to note. And let's check out their matchups. So they went on a really nice win streak here. They beat 2 Mews, 3 Lugias, and a Palkia all in a row. Then they did lose to a Lugia, but then they beat double Lost Box. And then they beat Lugia, they beat Palkia, they tied to the mirror, they lost to Lost Box, they beat Mew, they lost to Lugia in top 8. But this is definitely a list to look out for. It looks like they were doing really well, really consistently. Into the top 4, we've got 2 lost boxes. So let's check out this first one. This is the bread and butter lost box, it would seem. We've got 3 Sableye, 2 Cram, and a Charizard. 2 Roxanne, which is interesting, and they're also playing a Raihan as well to help power up that Radiant Charizard, in addition to the Magma Basin. So they are playing a couple of different cards here and there from what we've seen, as well as the Temple of Sinnoh. This list looks good. It looks like a solid way to play Sableye Charizard right now. I will say I do really like toughness capes that I've seen Alex Szymanski talk a lot about for these Lost Box decks. I do like toughness cape in the Sableye Charizard variants. And let's see what their matchups were like. They beat an other deck, and then they beat Palkia, Lugia, 2 Tinas, lost to the Mirror and Tina, beat the Mirror, tied to the Mirror, beat Lugia, Reggie, Lugia, Vikavolt. Vikavolt's a hard one to beat for this deck. And then ID to Palkia, and then they beat the Miltank control deck, and then lost to Lugia. Next, we have another Lost Box deck, and this is also going to be the Sableye Charizard. I promised you guys some spicy Lost Box decks. Those are coming in the results from the Late Night 70, which we'll be looking at in just a moment here. This is... Hold on. This is identical? Is this just the same exact list? That's crazy if it is. They beat a whole bunch of Lugias. Oh my goodness. So, hang on a second. So did Zio and Moongjun Kim play the same list? 7 energy, 41 trainer, 12 Pokemon. They played 2 Roxanne and a Raihan. I wanted to make sure I didn't click on the same deck twice. Yeah, these lists look exactly the same. They both play 3 Choice Belt? They both play 3 Choice Belt. Okay, so this Lost Box list seems pretty good then. If whenever 2 people get top whatever with the same exact list, I definitely give that merit. Like those people are picking a good list, and that deck must be doing something right. So I do like that. And then we have second place Mew VMAX with Meloetta. Let's take a look-see-do here. So they're playing Roxanne, they're playing Path. I'm not sure how I feel about Roxanne and Path in the Meloetta version yet. I definitely like the Echoing Horn, I like the Forest Seal Stones, I like the Lost Cities. This looks real good. I do wonder what the merit is for Psychic Energies, though, in a deck like this, just for getting those turn 1 Melodious Echoes more often. And I also wonder if Rotom Phone is just better than Trekking Shoes. But we've seen a lot of UV Max in our days, so let's go ahead and look at the Lugia Archeops that won the whole thing. It went 13-4 to take first place. It went on a 7-0 win streak to kick things off, and then, of course, won all of their games in top 8. So let's take a look at this deck list here. Okay, so they've got 3 tech attackers. They got the Amazing Rare Eviltal, the Amazing Rare Raikou, and the Radiant Charizard. They also have Regenerative Energy, which is good against the single prize stuff. Like, it's going to be good against Lost Box, because this Regenerative Energy says whenever you play a Pokemon from your hand to evolve the Pokemon V this card is attached to, heal 100 damage from that Pokemon. This is actually an incredible energy, an incredible tech for those single prize matchups. Anything that's 2-shotting a Lugia V-Star or 3-shotting a Lugia V-Star, you're just going to attack them with Arrow Dive on the first turn, knock out like a Cramorant or a Sableye or something of the sort, and then they hit you back. And then you just evolve into Lugia V-Star, and Regenerative Energy heals 100 damage from you. That's like almost as good as using a hyper potion or something. So regenerative energy, I think it was only a matter of time before that came out, and it's coming out right away, right at the start of this format, as a little tech for those single prize shenanigans. So uh really good. I don't like Manaphy. I am actually surprised that Manaphy is in the winning list. I think it's a waste of space in Lugia. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion at this moment, so I'm going to put it out there loud and proud. I think Manaphy sucks in Lugia V-Star, but other than that, I like this list. I also think I'd rather have a third choice belt or a second vacuum as opposed to the Tool Jammer. Other than that, looks good to me. Replace the Manaphy with a Pumpkaboo, and I like it a lot more. So Lugia Archeops went in as the most popular deck of this event by a long shot, and it won. Lost Box was the third most popular deck, and it got third and fourth. Mew VMAX was the second most popular deck, and it got second. What do you know? Giratina and Reggie's did not make it into the top 8, but Reggie's, they both made it into the top 16, though. So we'll just take a look at one Reggie list real quick in case you guys are interested. But of course, you guys can always go to Play Limitless and look at these decks on your own if you wish. So here's Reggie's, not playing any boss, but playing 2 Serenas. I think that makes sense. And then we'll just check out the Tina list in top 16 real quick. Oh, and I'm glad we did. It's a little spicy. They've got Raikou V and a couple of lightning energies in there, but they don't have any water energies, so they don't threaten any attacks at all with the Radiant Greninja or Lumineon. They also have 3 Temple of Sinnoh. Very interesting. Let's actually take a look at their matchups. Did that help against Lugia? So they played against 3 Lugia. They went 2 and 3 against it. I'd say that's not bad at all. They did lose to 2 Lost Boxes, which, you know, Lost Box is kind of favored versus Tina because they have more of the single prize stuff, and Tina has the Tinas that sometimes you just can't play down because you're giving up too many prizes. They beat both Reggies. Okay, so solid matches. Interesting that they don't have any water energies, but the 3 Temple of Sinnoh plus Raikou seems really, really rough for Lugia, and then the 3 Temple of Sinnoh is probably also really rough for the Regigigas decks as well. So let's look at Late Night 70 now. Late Night 70 had over 400 people, I believe. I said, right? Confirm. 383, almost 400. There we go. So the most popular deck, Lugia Archeops, at 17% with an over 50% win rate. And the same second and third most popular decks as well, Mew VMAX and Lost Zone Box. So Reggie's comes up in the 4th most played. Tina Box is 5th. And then we have Regieleki, Arceus Duraludon, Kyurem, Palkia, etc. and so on. Looking at the win percentages, what stands out to us? Well, Tina Box had a 54% win rate. Mew VMAX has a pretty good one. But I don't, like I said, I don't like looking at the smaller sample sizes win rates. So, yeah, let's go into the standings. So we'll look at the top 8 again, and it looks like Mew VMAX popping off with 11th, 9th, 8th, and 6th place. Lost Box variants also at 1st, 4th, 7th. Okay, yeah, 1st, 4th, and 7th, and then a bunch of Lugias happening here. 2nd, 5th, 10th. So Lugia, Lost Box variants, and Mew are all popping off right now. Let's take a look at 8th place Owen Dahlgard's Mew VMAX list. This is going to look a little similar to the other one we saw, focusing with the Meloetta, the Fusion Strike energies, no basic psychics, Pokemon Catcher, got Serena and Boss, just 2 Alessa Sparkles, Silene as well. Playing the Path to the Peak and the Lost City. I don't really like the Path to the Peak in here. I do love Path to the Peak and Mew stops, but it just feels better in that deck because I feel like you need something else. In this deck, I just want to be focusing on being as aggro as possible and winning the prize trade. Two choice spell. They got Silene. Yeah, I just don't like the Path to the Peak too much, and I also think I'd want a third Alessa Sparkle. Two Lost City's really good for the Lost Box decks and for Regigigas though. And of course, let's take a look at their matchups. So they got 8th place. They got there by beating a Mewtwo Miltank control, losing to Arceus and Teleon, and then they beat a Lugia, a Reggie, a Mew, a Tina, a Kyurem, ID, or not ID, natural type probably to Zorak Box, and then lost to Reggies. Then they beat 2 Reggies, they beat a Lost Box, they beat Lugia, ID to Mir, and then lose to Tina. And then we have 7th place is a Lost Box deck, and this is going to be one of those Mirage Gate Lost Boxes I was mentioning. This is the variant with Kyogre. So the attackers in this are going to be Cramorant, Sableye, Snorlax, Ice-Q, Radiant Greninja, and lastly, this Kyogre. So that's why they're playing the double Energy Recycler, double Ordinary Rod, because the Kyogre has Aqua Storm, discard the top 5 cards of your deck, and then choose 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each energy card you discarded in this way to each of those Pokemon. So you can have this final turn of discarding 5 energies off the top of your deck because you can get to the bottom of your deck and then Energy Recycler the energies back in, and you do 250 to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Very, very strong. So let's look at their matchups. They played against 2 Lugias and they beat both of them. They played against 3 Mews and they went 2-1. They played against 4 Tinas and they went 3-1. They ultimately lost to a different Lost Box deck. They also beat a Vikavolt, which is noteworthy. Next, we'll look at 6th place Mew VMAX, and this is going to be much closer to the Mew VMAX list from the previous event that we looked at, so I won't spend too much time here. And then we've got the only Lugia, I'm sorry, not the only Lugia, the 5th place Lugia, but there's also one in 2nd. Jack W with Lugia in 5th place. Let's take a look at this. So they've got a good bit of stuff going on here. They've got Stoutland with the double dip fangs. It does 40 damage, and if your opponent's basic is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take 1 more prize card. That's really, really good against Lost Box, but kind of only Lost Box. And then also you can take out techs, like if the Lugia player benches Pumpkaboo or Dunsparce in the mirror match, you could take out one of those with Stoutland, since you do play the one boss's orders. They're playing a Professor Burnett in this deck. It searches your deck for up to 2 cards and discard them. I don't think that is good. They did get 5th place, but I highly doubt that we're going to decide as a community that Professor Burnett is optimal in Lugia V-Star. If that day comes, then it does, but I doubt that will happen. I would just make Professor Burnett a 4th evolution in sense. Again, I'm seeing these Manaphy's. I feel like Manaphy's wasted bench space in this deck because, like, Amazing Rare Raikou, okay, they hit your Lugia and they knock out your Dunsparce, and then you knock out their Raikou and it's gone for the rest of the game. So I don't feel like Manaphy is that good. We also have this Zekrom with Wild Shock that can paralyze the defending Pokemon. Lugia decks don't play a way to get out of paralysis, so this can be good for that reason. But also with a choice belt, you just one-shot Lugia. With Wild Shock, you do 320. And other than that, I think we can move on from this list. They're not playing the regenerative energy like we saw earlier, but they are playing the Stoutland as the Lost Box tech, because with powerful colorless, your double dip fangs are going to be knocking out those little Pokemon. And next we are at another lost box. This is the one that beat, which one did it beat? It beat the other lost box, but then lost to Lugia. So this is also Kyogre. How crazy is that? 2 Lost Zone Kyogre decks in top 8 of an almost 400 person event. Built pretty similarly, playing the double recycler, double ordinary rod, so we won't spend too much time there, but very cool to see that. Then we've got Giratina Box in 3rd place, Erica Alves. Let's check this out. So we've got double Temple of Sinnoh in here. 3/3 Tina. I like to see it. Double Roxanne. Big fan. Big fan of double Roxanne. Drapion V because Mew's super good. Double Temple of Sinnoh seems good. Yeah, this all seems great. I do really love our Nguru in Giratina box because it allows you to put the energy back on top of your deck if you have too many energies in your hand. But sometimes you don't have the bench space for Guru. Sometimes I guess you don't have the deck space for Guru when building the deck here. But I would like to fit it back in. But there are things like the double Temple of Sinnoh and the Drapion V that are just very meta relevant right now to have in your deck. And let's see what Erica won and lost to. So, wow. Look at that phase 1. Going 8-0-1 in phase 1. Beating a Regigigas, 2 other decks. Giratina, Lugia, Kyurem. Tied a Reggie, beat a Lugia. Finally taking the first loss in phase 2 to a Lugia. Then beating Mew, beating Lost Box, lose the Lost Box. Beat a Lugia, beat Mew, lost to Lost Box. So Lost Box is the big bad for Giratina, and it seems like Lost Box is coming back in troves right now. So we've got 2nd place Lugia. We're almost done here. 2nd place Lugia with the colorless build with 2 Charon's Cares. That's also going to be really good against the Lost Box stuff. Playing no Aurora energies here, just playing the Regigigas really as the only tech attacker. Of course, Archeops can be pretty powerful too. You can slap a powerful, like 2 powerfuls and a gift energy on Archeops, and it's swinging for 160, and then you draw cards when it's knocked out. The Regigigas is going to be really good against Mew VMAX and also against Kyurem VMAX. So the 4 Path of the Peak is going to be good against a lot of things as well. And we'll take a look at their matchups here. So they went on a 7-0 streak, beating an other deck, 2 Lugia mirrors, Zoroark Box, Arceus Flying Pika, Vikavolt, Tina, tying to a Reggie, and then ultimately losing to a Tina, losing to a Box, beating Lugia, beating another Lugia, beating Mew, losing to Mew. So pretty good matchup spread across the board here. Beating Arc Pika, beating beating Arc Pika, beating Vika, beating the mirrors pretty consistently, beating 5 mirrors, 5 out of 5 mirrors this one. That's really good. And then finally, the 1st place deck. What was it? Oh, that's right. It's Amazing Rare Rayquaza. Yeah. 1st place. Take it in. So we've got Amazing Rare Rayquaza with Amazing Burst. Discard all basic energy from this Pokemon, and it does 80 for each type of basic energy you discarded in this way. That is the winning deck. So we've got our attackers are going to be Rayquaza, Sableye, Cramorant, Galarian, Zapdos, Raikou V, Ice-Q, Radiant Greninja. Heck, even Lumineon can attack. Even Comfey can attack, but you probably should never attack with Comfey. The Mirage Gate and the Raihans are going to make this all possible. And then a whole slew of different energy types with 3 ordinary rods. This deck is insane. As in, it's crazy. They're doing a lot of stuff. And this is the first time Amazing Rare Rayquaza has probably had any sort of placement at all. And it's a 1st place. So, pretty nuts. piloted by Blue Ampharos. So they took 2 losses in the event. One loss was to a regular old Sableye Charizard lost box, and the other loss was to Brandon Bond playing Lugia with the regenerative energy. Okay. And Raikou. Okay, so regenerative energy and Raikou, I would imagine, had played a part in winning that. But Lost Box, Mirage Gate with Amazing Rare Rayquaza won the event, going 13-2-2. So they won some cash playing Amazing Rare Rayquaza. Let's see what it was. First place, $200 and 20 ptcgo codes. So wow. They won $200 with Amazing Rare Rayquaza. What do you know? So those are the results from Late Night 70 and Late Night 69. You guys can go right to play.limitlesstcg.com if you want to enter events. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.